Hello, boys and girls. Thanks for tuning in and welcome to the Joy of Piping. Smoking a Jake Hackert Liverpool. It's kind of a purplish blue stem, which you can see a little bit here in the light. This pipe's from 2013. It was an estate pipe. It was unsmoked when I got it, which was amazing to me. And in it, we've got a little Mississippi River. Mississippi River is probably 4 or 5 years old at this point. You know, a few years ago, I did a video called Back to Basics, and I talked about going back to tobaccos that I knew and that I loved, and ones that I had no extra expectations for, something that I knew I would enjoy the smoke, whether it was a good bowl or a bad bowl, because we do have those good bowls and bad bowls, just like we have good days and bad days. And then I realized that something that I had been taking very seriously in other parts of my life, well, in the enjoyment parts at least, has a lot to do with what I do when I'm smoking a pipe. That being purity of technique. I said a few years ago in a video, which I think it was one of the videos I referenced in my last video, where I was talking about videos that my dog Oscar had been in. I was talking about how I filled my pipe, and I was formerly using this gravity method where I would put the tobacco in my hand, turn the bowl upside down, and kind of swirl the tobacco in, and most of the time it worked pretty well. Somehow, over the last few years, I graduated to using the same concept, but basically pinching the tobacco as much as I could possibly fit between these two fingers and stuffing it into the pipe, which led to an extremely restricted tobacco chamber, which usually means that I had to let my tobacco dry out excessively to make it smokable at all. Fast forward to let's say about 2 weeks ago, I was smoking some tobacco, and I realized that I had been struggling quite a bit, actually, with the way that the pipe was smoking, because it would get wet and nasty and kind of unenjoyable. So I was looking for some way to go back to, I guess, the way I used to fill a pipe. So I decided to go back to the first steps, the first thing you learn when you first start smoking a pipe, which is the 3-step method. And I took my time. I was very serious and deliberate about the technique involved in filling up my pipe. I tested the draw, and it was pretty much what I needed it to be. We always say you want to fill it like first stuff it like a little baby, then stuff it like a lady, then stuff it like a man. You know, pack it down in increasing levels of force, and then test the draw, and you should get something that feels like you're drinking soda through a straw. A little bit of resistance. And that is the purest technique to use, and the simplest technique. I think most people start off filling a pipe like that, and then eventually work their way to the point where they've kind of figured out their own method that works for them. Well, I went back to the simple method, started at the beginning, focused on the purity of technique, and all of a sudden, I'm getting a level of enjoyment with my pipes that I hadn't got previously. I went through a period there where no matter what, for hours and hours after I smoked a bowl of tobacco, I could taste it on my tongue, and in the back part of my tongue where it was more acrid than anything. It was just unenjoyable that it would hang around that long, and I could brush my teeth and rinse my mouth out, eat chocolate, eat mints. Didn't matter, it'd be there for forever. And once I started going back to the basics, so to speak, suddenly I'm back to enjoying tobacco like I used to. As a matter of fact, I have not smoked a pipe this frequently in years. Now, I did say in my last video that I was focusing on finding more time to relax, and this is a relaxing activity for me, especially when I get to come on here on YouTube and talk with you guys. But I didn't realize that I could increase the experience and make it a little bit more substantial if I were to focus on technique. And it's funny because I am a stickler for technique in a lot of other things. So in guitar, I actually changed my picking technique after probably 20 years of playing one way. I changed picks, which is difficult to do. Anyone who plays guitar could probably tell you this. Once you get used to a certain style of pick, size and texture and thickness, it can be rather difficult to make the change. But I remember doing that with the intention of changing my technique. And when I focused on it and I worked on the purest form of the technique that I was looking for, well, it greatly improved my playing. To the point where, and again, this is probably more for guitarists than anyone else, but I was able to turn the gain down on all of my amps because I was getting a better tone from playing cleaner, creating a better sound overall, so I didn't have to focus so much on making distortion do the work for me. Same thing in golf. I mentioned in my last video that I'm kind of a golf nut now, and I went to the driving range this weekend and I was focusing on technique. And to send a driving range ball that's probably 550 years old, it's been hit by 10,000 different people, to be able to hit that ball all the way to the back fence, which the back fence here is about 300 yards, 295, 300 yards, to be able to hit it that far without killing myself, well, I think that makes a case for purity of technique. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you're not enjoying your pipes, or tobaccos aren't quite what you thought they were or what you remembered them to be, perhaps it's not you, perhaps it's not your tongue. I always say this: it is the Indian, not the arrow. Very frequently, it is not the pipe's fault that you are not enjoying it. It is certainly not the tobacco's fault, and it's not always a matter of pH. It might just be that you have perhaps gotten a little slack on the techniques that you use to prepare and smoke a pipe, so maybe it's worth revisiting. So I hope you guys enjoy your pipes, and we will see you on the next one.